back to Trudy Talks. I am so glad that you're here, or welcome if this is your first time finding my channel. Welcome. Yeah, it's great that you're here. I'm so excited. I'm having so much fun creating content here on YouTube. Thank you, YouTube, for the platform to do it. I've talked about it a little bit, but not being able to talk or being like having that silence kind of put on you really drives you a bit mad and has you like screaming in your head continually. So this has been a real weight off my shoulders to be able to share on here and hopefully help other people who have or are facing the same kind of situations in religious organizations, or any other organizations, but my experiences in those ones. If you were on my channel this week, you'll see that I posted a short on Saturday, and unfortunately this short was about a band that I used to love. Well, I say a band, it wasn't the full band, although that's up for debate as to really where guilt lies on abuse. I would say that whenever your band member is accused of things that have been happening over like decades, that there has to be something that you knew along the way. And I think we're seeing that some people knew things. So yeah, I was talking about Michael TAIT and the allegations that came out last week that he had essayed some young men in over the last kind of load of years, 2004, 2010 and 2014. He also was providing substances for those guys. He was offering them things like cocaine, alcohol, just the usual things you hope to find on a tour bus on a Christian band, just the usuals. So yeah, it was kind of sad. Well, not so much sad as I'm not sad, I'm disappointed. No, it wasn't even that. It was just like, I am never surprised anymore. I'm never surprised whenever I hear stories of abuse in the circles that are Christianity. And that's just a fact. I'm not surprised by it anymore. Every day there are more allegations of spiritual abuse, manipulation, love bombing, just the stuff that absolutely destroys people. And there's so much control in these environments, and there's so much need for power. And especially, I would imagine, I have never been in the Christian music industry, nor would I like to be, but it's money. It comes down to the two things. It comes down to power, and it comes down to money, and it comes down to control. And well, that's three. I can't count. That's three. So it comes down to three things: money, power, and control. And we see it over and over again. It's so predictable. But it leaves victims in its wake, and it's not okay, and it has to stop. So Michael TAIT has had these allegations against him. He hasn't released any kind of statement. Don't think I'm interested in what he has to say anyway. Mostly because there seems to have been so much of a cover-up in regards to his behaviours over the years. So we have people like Newsboys, the new lead singer, the new frontman of Newsboys, has said, we did ask him about kind of allegations that were made over the years. Like, we asked him, and he emphatically denied these, and no, it didn't happen. But where there's smoke, there's fire, and that's just fact. You can't have allegations with an S on the end and say we kept asking about multiple allegations and still expect that really he's telling the truth whenever he denies it all. So there's culpability there. There's nothing you can do to get away from that. There has been covering up, and I would imagine a lot of it has to do with money and feeling like they don't want their reputation tarnished. But what is worse is that if you've covered it up, people are going to remember that. They're going to remember that you covered it up, and that just made more victims. So yeah, it kind of sucks for his band members, both in Newsboys and DC Talk, unfortunately, because yeah, there's always going to be at the back of people's minds, you can't not have known some of this stuff took place on a tour bus. You can't not have known. And that's unfortunately the way that it is. And then you have things like today where K-Love, one of the biggest radio stations across the United States, has said that they are going to stop playing Newsboys and DC Talk. So they're hitting them in their wallet, and I think that's just what happens whenever there's consequences. There are consequences to your actions. There's consequences to everybody's actions. So that is what is happening with this at the minute. And like I said in my short, I do believe that there will be more to this story, because I think that when there has been so much known about his behaviour over the years, and we have 3 really brave guys who come out and tell their stories, there's no way that there can't be more. And I really hope there isn't more, but I think it's just a given that there will be. And yeah, that sucks and that's crap, and they deserve to have justice for that, because no victim's life gets left. Oh, I'm making squeaky noises with my chair. No victim's life gets left untouched when they are abused in whatever way that they're abused. It affects relationships. It affects how they interact with other people. I know for me, and some of the things that I dealt with and I faced and had happened to me, it definitely it kind of affects your DNA a little bit. It affects how you interact. It definitely affects what you think about yourself. It affects what you think you're capable of, or if you're capable of anything. It affects your understanding of your worth. And yeah, it just gets in every little nook and cranny in your head. It gets into everywhere, and there's nothing you can do about it. It kind of seeps in, and then you've got to deal with getting it out. And silence is not one of the ways that you get it out. So I'm really proud of these guys that have come out and shared their story about Michael Tait, because I can't imagine how difficult it is to do that with somebody who has been in such a position of power for such a long time in an industry that has the money to cover it up. That's a really brave thing for these guys to do. So I really applaud their bravery and their courage, because now it can be stopped when probably there's people that could have stopped it over the years. But he had a really good gift, and he could sing, and he could make them money. You know, doesn't matter about character or integrity or victims. I don't think so. Not in the minds of these guys. So yeah, we're gonna keep an eye on this story. I will report on it again probably in a short, as we see things coming across the news, of which there's normally a lot. Go watch the elbows. Gotta watch the elbows. I had a video sent to me this week by an incredibly brave woman. I knew a little bit of this girl's story, her story of SA, spiritual abuse. I don't even know what label to put on some of the abuse, because I can't get my brain around it. But it was terrifying. It was horrific. And as always, it was covered up. And that just makes me really, really angry. But I think that this girl is one of the bravest people that I have ever come into contact with. I think all survivors of abuse are incredibly brave, because the people that cause that the people that do the abusing couldn't cope with what people who have been abused have to deal. They couldn't deal with what we have to deal with, and what we have to make our way through, and what we have to overcome after it. I'm pretty sure most of them couldn't cope with it, but we make it through, and sometimes just by the skin of our teeth. And all of the survivors that I met are just these incredible women. And I think one of the things that I've found to be true is that these women all seem to have the same kind of they have the same kind of things about them. So they're kind, they're soft-hearted, they just wanted to love people and serve people. They wanted to be part of something really exciting and really cool, and that made their life worthwhile. My life's wild now. They want to just be part of something that is good for mankind, and for just to be kind to people. And there seems to be those characteristics in a lot of victims. There seems to be those characteristics that just hoped for the best and had to deal with the very worst. So this girl actually sent me a video this week, a YouTube video, which I'm going to link in my description of this episode today, and it's one that definitely you should watch it. I think everybody should watch it, especially if you still move in Christian circles or you are in leadership, and that there's some part of your conscience that still cares about the broken, or what happens if people are broken under your watch. Watch the video. That's really all I can say. I can share a story, but I don't have the expertise in these things to be able to say, look, there's this is the damage. I can share the damage that is done to me, and as I watch the story, I can relate to so much of the story. I will say that SA was not part of my story in the institution that I was in, and I say that not to make anybody sound good. That actually didn't happen to me. That's a pretty low bar, but it never happened in that place. It never happened in that particular building to me. Just to clarify, if anybody needs clarification, I'm just clarifying that. I'm not doing anybody a favor. I tell the truth. I don't want anything to sit out there where people think, oh, did this happen to her? No, it didn't happen to me in there. It didn't. There was no grooming in there. Well, no SA is probably the best way to put it. But this video is one that should be watched. This guy, I do believe, is I think that he is Billy Graham's grandson. I can't say his name. His first name is Boz. But he's talking to a lady called Dr. Carol, and yeah, it's worth a watch. He is a lawyer, and he helps victims of SA and all the other types of abuse that you will find in religious organizations and institutions. And yeah, it's definitely worth a listen. It's definitely worth a look. And it's definitely worth paying attention to if you are in any of those roles, because we definitely have moved past the times when you should cover this stuff up. There's just, we can't live there anymore. We can't live in cover-ups because you think that you're, well, I say it's because you're scared of God looking bad. It's not that. You're scared of yourself looking bad, and that's why the cover-up happens. It's not to do with whether the church looks bad. It's what it means for you, and that's normally what happens when there is somebody at the top. It's about your legacy, and regardless of people know about it, God knows about it. So your legacy is what your legacy is. So that's up to you, but you get to choose nowadays whether you will you'll be on the side of the broken, or you'll be on the side of the people that do the breaking. And yeah, we can't still be living in that era, can we? Can we still be living in the era of covering up? Surely we can't be living in the era of covering up. I think we might be, but you can be different, I think is the big thing. If you're watching this, or you know someone in that position, send this to them and just say, you can be different. You know, it's Jesus wouldn't have done the covering up. It's just fact. He wouldn't have done the covering up. He didn't walk into a temple and overturn tables because he was like, that's not covering up. Like, he, out in the open, he told them to stop it. I'm not a theologian, but he wasn't behind the door. He challenged the Pharisees. He challenged the things. He didn't just say, oh, that's going to look really bad for me, because those people, they like my father, they like God. That'll look really bad for me. Let's just push that one under the carpet. Let's shovel that under the carpet. And then when we do that, everything will be okay. We'll move on, we'll carry on, and let's not worry about all the dead bodies lying behind the bus, as Mark Driscoll used to like to say. Yeah, he loved a wee dead body behind the bus. There's a lot of pastors that love a dead body behind the bus, or the doors aren't locked. That's another good one, you know. The doors aren't locked. If you're not happy with something, the doors aren't locked. You know, just leave. We don't really love yous or care about yous anyway, so, you know, the doors aren't locked. It's a great one. I love that one. That shows such care and such kindness. My elbows are down, but I'm not going to move them across, please. Yeah, this video is it's a good one, and I think the ironic thing is that this girl who I'm not going to talk about where she is with God, but she knows where I am with God, and she sent me 2 videos this week, both of them kind of pointing out that there are still some good people in churches that are trying, who do love Jesus and who are trying to do the right thing, and that's really kind of her to do that. She doesn't need to do that, especially not after what she's dealt with in her life, but yet there she is, sending me videos that show that there's safety in some places. Yeah, so that was quite interesting. I have watched both of them. I've watched the one that I'm gonna post in the description. I've watched it a couple of times just to kind of hear exactly what it is that he's saying, and the importance of everything that he's saying. So yeah, watch it. If you're so inclined, do watch it. Well, I think that is all I have to say today. I was out in that's not all I had to say. I was in my garden today. I was strimming and cutting the grass because it's like heading up to 30 degrees here today. So I got up and went out first thing this morning. And I really like going out into the garden to do stuff, because it really helps you to switch your mind off. And I normally listen to music, or I'll listen to a podcast. But today I was just listening to music as I cut the grass and looked around me and looked at my home and looked at the place that I find myself in. And again, and I do this all the time, and it's a difficult thing for me, because I used to always be really, really thankful to God. And one of the things that I've really struggled with was I kind of stopped having someone or something to be thankful to. I kind of had this moment of thinking I you know, I'm not one of those thanks to the universe kind of people. But I kind of had this sense of, I have this sense of peace now, that when I'm in my garden or I sit on the porch and or I look at our home and I see the place that I find myself on and the secure ground, which is ironic because I am in America. Is there anywhere with secure ground? I just am able to feel a peace that I've never felt in my life, and that's a really odd thing to say as a Christian. I didn't spend a lot of my time happy in those institutions. I didn't have a lot of fun. And now I have fun and I feel at peace, and that took a while to get used to, because I felt like not to get used to. I loved it from the very start, but I didn't understand why you couldn't have that there. And I think that actually if you ask any person in any of those institutions, especially the one that I was in, I think they would say that they don't really have fun and they aren't super happy. And I don't know why, but what I do know is that I now have peace. I now wake up and I can be at peace in my life. I think that's really the only way I can say it. Long pause. So that's a nice feeling. I have definitely come to the end. I have finished talking for today, and that is like a whole 10 minutes less than what I normally post. You're welcome. What can I say except you're welcome? And if that is not leaving you guys singing that song, then I have failed at my my job here. Yes, I am done. I'm done for today. What I will say is that if you have watched to the end, I am so grateful. YouTube loves it when you stay online and watch the end, and so do I then, clearly. So thank you for watching to the end. If you have enjoyed the ramblings of a crazy woman, then make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell. And I would love it if you were checking out my content every week. And if you hit the bell, you'll not miss any of the episodes as they drop. I'll also be hitting you up with a few more shorts over the coming weeks as well, because I am having a lot of fun making those. But anyway, for tonight, I will talk with you next week. But have a good evening, and I'll see you then. Bye. I'm back. There has actually been a statement from Michael TAIT literally after I set down my phone, so I'm just going to read it to you. If you haven't seen it already, I'm sure you will have by the time this episode goes out. But it says, ex-Newsboys singer Michael TAIT breaks silence on SA allegations. I'll simply call it what God calls it, sin. In a social media post, TAIT notes that he spent 6 weeks in a treatment centre following his departure from the contemporary Christian music band. Former Newsboys member Michael TAIT, who abruptly left the contemporary Christian music group in January, speaking out about allegations of sexual misconduct and drug use brought against him over the past week. In an Instagram post titled My Confession, Michael TAIT, June 10th, 2025, the singer-songwriter, who is also a founding member of Christian rap and rock trio DC Talk, directly addressed the reports, writing, recent reports of my reckless and destructive behaviour, including drug and alcohol abuse and sexual activity, are largely, sadly, true. For some 2 decades, I used and abused cocaine, consumed far too much alcohol, and at times touched men in an unwanted sensual way. I'm ashamed of my life choices and actions and make no excuses for them. I'll simply call it what God calls it, sin. I don't blame anyone or anything but myself. And while I might dispute certain details in the accusations against me, I do not dispute the substance of them. TAIT noted that following his departure from Newsboys, he spent 6 weeks in a treatment center in Utah, saying, "I was not healthy spiritually or physically and was tired of leading a double life." He said he has been clean and sober since this time at the center, though he adds, "I still have lots of hard work ahead of me." He wrote, "I'm ashamed to admit that for years I have lied and deceived my family, friends, fans, and even misled my bandmates about aspects of my life. I was, for the most part, living two distinctively different lives. I was not the same person on stage Sunday night that I was at home on Monday. By his grace, I could say that for the past 6 months I have lived a singular life, one of utter brokenness and total dependence on a loving and merciful God." He also said that he is committed to continuing the hard work of repentance and that he will be doing so quietly and privately away from the stage and spotlight. He wrote, "I have hurt so many people in so many ways, and I will live with the shameful reality the rest of my life. I can only dream and pray for human forgiveness because I certainly don't deserve it. Still, I want to say I'm sorry to everyone I have hurt. I am truly sorry. It is my hope and prayer that all those I have hurt will receive healing, mercy, and hope from the merciful healer and hope giver." Yeah, so that has just been released, and due to the fact that I do like to be fair, in everything that I say. That was an article with Billboard, and I want to be honest and say, okay, this is the guy's, this is what he has to say. It's okay to give somebody their place to say what they need to say. So he's done that, and yeah, I hope that he's able to be better and to live a better life. And but more than that, I really hope that the victims are not overlooked in his statement of "please forgive me and forget this ever happened." So yeah, I hope he does all right. I don't wish harm on him, but for the victims, I really hope that people don't forget about them, because they're the ones that will live with it for a really long time and they didn't ask for it. So yes, I am definitely finished now. I just wanted to add that to the end. Yeah, subscribe, hit the bell. I'll be so happy. And yeah, I'll talk to you next week in my episode. Bye.